All right. What's happening? We're live.
We are. I was just getting distracted by the intro video that's playing as you log onto our show. The ad happened to be for QuickBooks, so I thought that was pretty ironic to be heading into a, gotta love that targeted marketing, right?
Well, this is like the most exciting, sexiest content that we do for the whole year, I think, right?
Taxes. Absolutely.
So
everybody just loves to talk about taxes.
I want to know how many of our regular viewers are like hiding from our show today because they're like sticking their head in the sand.
Mm-hmm.
And
probably a lot of them.
They don't want to think about taxes. They don't want to be confronted with taxes.
The actual results of taxes. I mean, let's just face it. That's one of the scariest words that people actually use when you're a self-employed individual is the word taxes.
Yeah.
You start talking about the IRS and taxes and tax bills and CPAs and accountants and spreadsheets, and everybody's eyes just glaze over.
Yeah, for sure.
Including mine. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely hate this. You guys have heard me talk about this before. I hate spreadsheets. I especially hate Excel. I'm 44 years old. I've been in the business world since I was 17, and I still have no idea how to fucking use Excel. I mess it up every single time.
We're only 1 minute in. We're going to be demonetized. Jeez.
I mess it up every single time, and I can't. I'm sorry. My brain doesn't work that way. I don't have math brain. I don't have spreadsheet brain. It doesn't work for me. But the good thing about that is there are plenty of people that are very good, that do have math brain, that will help me and help us in this avenue. And we have one of them here on the show today.
Indeed. So Mark Tew from Notre Dame CPA, we actually had him on around this time last year. He is a reseller himself, and he's a CPA and does all kinds of awesome stuff and does taxes for a lot of other resellers. So he knows what he's doing. But one of the things I wanted to point out is that when we had him on last year, I was behind a few years on my taxes. So I was one of those people that was in the position where I was like terrified of finally tackling it. I'd been putting it off because it was just
for years.
It was that task that like I just didn't want to have to deal with.
People talk about that insurmountable task, that insurmountable task. For Katie, it was facing the taxes.
Yeah, and it was really just being overwhelmed and thinking it was going to be a lot worse than it was, and just not really knowing where to start. It just felt like too much. And finally, and then part of it also was that I had talked to like 2 different accountants before that, and one of them wanted to charge me like $4,000 per year to do the taxes. And the other one like kept not getting back to me, and so it was kind of a nightmare. And let me tell you guys, I hired Mark. I am now caught up with my taxes. My taxes are paid, and it was way less painful than I thought it was going to be, and that's all because of Mark. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him out, and I hope that for some of you guys out there, if you are in the same position I was in last year, if you are paralyzed right now, as Greg Dupage-Piquer says, if you are paralyzed with the fear of like how to handle your taxes, I'm telling you from personal experience that Mark is exactly the guy who can help you out. And his approach is, I don't even know if there's anyone else that can make it any easier. So let's go ahead and bring Mark on. What's up, Mark?
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me again.
Thank you. Hey.
Oh, thank you. We are so happy to have you back on the show. We've had a lot of people asking about you and asking about taxes in the past several months. And we don't shy away from those questions. We'll answer things as best as we can. We're not one of those channels or one of the our boss group is not the group where we're like, oh, talk to an accountant, we're not going to answer your tax questions. We're all in the same boat.
I mean, has anyone ever been sued for giving somebody like, hey, I'm going to tell you how to do your tax? Like, I don't know why people are terrified.
Not unless you're the CPA that signs off on their taxes with bad advice, but listening to people in a Facebook group. I mean, if we can't answer a specific question, we've asked people, and Mark is actually in the boss Facebook group, so he does answer questions if people tag him occasionally. I hope you don't get tagged a million times now because I said that. I'm sorry. But the basic questions, everybody can kind of help out with a little bit. And I think when you're a brand new reseller, everything is a huge question, and it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. So Mark, you've been doing the talk show circuit. I feel like you've been on a lot of YouTube shows lately talking about, this is that time of year, and you have a really awesome Reseller Tax Academy thing that you're doing right now that we'll talk about more. But I have a question for you. You don't have to say any names. You shouldn't say any names. But of all the shows that you've been on, how many of those people actually use you as their personal CPA?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if it's the majority, but maybe half. Or
Okay,
something.
okay,
That's pretty good.
we just want our viewers to know that when we talk about Mark and when we are promoting him and his services, it really, the only services that we ever promote are ones that we use ourselves and that we feel are worthy of being promoted. And so we want you guys to at least know that coming from us, we know what we're talking about.
It's authentic.
It's authentic, and we are genuinely telling you that if you need help with your taxes, that Mark is definitely somebody that you should be turning to.
And I will say, even when we had this show last year, I talked about my accountant that I'd been using, or my CPA that I'd been using for 12 years with my business. And I said, you know what, this year I'm going to use Mark. I used Mark last year to do my taxes as well. And he saved me even more money than my accountant that's been doing my taxes for 12 years. So, and I remember messaging him back. I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm like, but really, are you sure? He's like, yeah. He's like, I think your accountant was being conservative.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm happy to take that. I gave him accurate figures. He knows what he's doing. He was able to find more, write-offs for me, and I'm happy to take that work. I was like, okay, I guess maybe he was being too conservative.
So Mark, can you just real quickly kind of give us a rundown of like what your background is?
Yeah, background. So, I studied accounting in college. I never really wanted to be like, I just thought it was so cliche to like, eventually form your own little CPA firm. I was like, I don't want to do that. That's lame. I'm better than that or whatever. But I went to work for an accounting firm. I worked in finance, and along the way, I was like, you know what? I am a CPA. Why don't I just try it out? Get a few clients of my own, see if I like it. And not too long after that, I started specializing in e-commerce, eBay, reselling, all that stuff, and eventually started a little Amazon business of my own, with a friend. So I do a little bit of reselling myself, and now I specialize full-time in helping online sellers with their businesses. It's taxes, consulting, a little bit of accounting, bookkeeping stuff too. So it's a really cool community to be a part of.
Awesome.
And I think it's a fantastic niche too, because I think there are so many accountants and CPAs that do not understand the world of online reselling. Whether you physically hold your inventory or you don't, those are some big differences. And whether you're working out of your home or you're working out of an office space, or you have a warehouse or you don't have a warehouse, there are so many intricacies that people that don't understand the online reselling world don't understand. Including CPAs. So it's really important to find a CPA that understands what you do.
Yeah. Well, and you're located in Utah, I believe, right? And so, but you do the taxes and you do work for resellers all over the United States. Like, it doesn't matter what state they're in, right?
Right. Yeah, I have clients in nearly every state. I'm still missing a few, but yeah, for the most part, everywhere.
I don't know. Do you have any in Alaska, Allison? Allison, did you check out?
Well, and also, so you have, what I really appreciate about you too, Mark, is that when you go on your website, you actually break down like all of your services, you break down the pricing, everything like that, which I feel like a lot of businesses, they try to keep that hidden, and they don't want to like tell you up front like what it's going to cost. But I was actually shocked the first time I went and looked at all of your pricing, like how affordable your services are just for like, basic business bookkeeping or in taxes and everything.
Even if you are a small-time reseller, a lot of people think, oh, I can't afford a CPA, I can't afford an accountant, I only sell a few $1,000s a month or even $1,000 a month online. Let me tell you, his base rates are extremely affordable, and you're doing yourself a disservice if you are trying to fudge your way through your own taxes and you don't know exactly what you're doing, because I guarantee the amount of money that he's going to be able to save for you is well worth what you're paying him to do your taxes. Yeah. That's my opinion.
Yeah. So in a little bit, we're going to get into having Mark answer any questions anybody in the chat has tax-related questions, and we have a few written down that we were given before the show. But first, Mark, I wanted to give you a chance beyond just like doing people's taxes or doing their bookkeeping. You have your Reseller Tax Academy going right now. You have a special going on. Can you just tell us like what exactly is this deal? What is this academy or this class? What does it consist of?
Yeah, so I'll just touch on it real quickly. It's an online course that consists of 9 separate modules, each with their own lessons. So I think it's like 50 separate videos, and it's a go at your own pace. You know, you have access to all of it. And what it is, it's really about, you know, we talk about tax basics, deductions, you know, the IRS, how to clean up a tax mess, how to assess the current state of your business, like if you have the right entity structure, like all this stuff. But I talk about it in a way that really helps you to optimize your tax situation. Because one of the best things you can do as a reseller is you know, have some tools, have some knowledge that help you operate in a way throughout the year that's going to help you optimize your tax situation. And like what I mean by that is, you know, a lot of people think at the end of the year when they go to their CPA or when they go to prepare their own taxes that you know, they hope that they can wave a magic wand and just save them a ton of money. But really at that point, the damage has already been done. Like all the decisions have already been made throughout the year. But you know, if you can work as a team with your CPA or with yourself and make the right decisions throughout the year, that's going to give you a lot more flexibility at the end of the year when you're preparing your taxes to have optimal savings. So that's really what it's about. It's not a how to do your taxes course. It's like how to be a smart business person so you maximize your taxes course. But yeah, I mean, if you're watching this now, so I'm still in the launch phase. It actually ends today. I told you guys I would extend it a day specifically for your audience. I'm not sharing that anywhere but here. And you can link the code down below, I guess.
Well, so basically, guys, Mark has a special going right now. Normally, his Tax Academy costs $349. And he has a special going right now. If you sign up today, it's Wednesday, the 22nd. If you sign up today, it's going to be $249. So you're saving $100. But for anyone who is watching our show, if you're not able to get that done today, we have a special code. Check it out, Mark. I'm going to flash it on the screen. What? You can kind of see it. It says EXTRADAY, but I also have it down in the description of the video. Basically, you can use that code tomorrow, which is Thursday, the 23rd, and you will still be able to get that $100 off the course. And what time tomorrow will that go till, Mark?
Till midnight Mountain Time, so 11 o'clock Pacific.
Okay, so yeah, so 11 o'clock Pacific or 2 a.m. Eastern Time. You can use that EXTRADAY. Again, it's down in the description of this video too. But if you sign up today, Wednesday, it's already going to be $100 off.
The one thing I want to say too is if you want to, TEW2, also is that if you go below to the and click on our link to Mark's course, what you should do is go to his website, which the link will take you to his website, which gives you a very thorough explanation of what the course entails. It also gives you a very thorough explanation and several testimonials from some names and people that you may recognize in the reseller community as far as having him part of their tax preparation and their business in general. So the Reseller Tax Academy, but also it gives you his website gives you pricing for your taxes, for individual, for corporation, for business taxes, all that type of stuff. His price structure is very solid and very affordable, and it's right there. It also gives you, I think you have your spreadsheet download is available on the website as well for everybody.
Yeah, yep, I have a link on there to a couple spreadsheets that you can check
make
out.
Your tax preparation a lot easier, both for you as a business individual and your CPA, and hopefully that CPA ends up being Mark. But that for me was a game changer last year. Just the way that you explain all the different categories and where to put the numbers. I know that spreadsheet makes it so that you can do anybody's taxes in 10 minutes that have filled in that information, which is fantastic, because let me tell you, his turnaround is phenomenal.
It's kind of freaky and weird, Mark. I'm just saying, because like I said, I was a few years behind. I use the spreadsheet, the same one that you can download on his website. I use the spreadsheet for each year to go through, and you basically just fill out everything that's in there. And once I sent all of that and everything else he wanted to him, it was literally like, I feel like it was like one day. Like, I think there were a couple of questions.
Mine was a 1-day turnaround.
And I'm like, how is this even possible? So, but
he may be busier at tax time. I'm not guaranteeing it's a 1-day turnaround.
Yeah, got nothing to do.
He's very, very quick and very responsive to, to messages, to questions and everything like that.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, if you could turn the volume down on the speaker on your side, if that would be all right. People are saying they're hearing an echo when we're talking. That might be coming through your speakers.
Okay, I'll see what happens.
I don't know if that'll help. It sounds like it's just a faint echo, so it's not too bad. But anyway, guys, the link down below, it takes you directly to the page about the Tax Academy course. But once you're there, you should definitely go and muck around on the website a bit and see all the different.
He has a lot of information on his website, a lot of information that is there for free. That if nothing else, you should at least check that out. And I think, for me, I said to Mark before we got on the show, I said, I'm buying the Tax Academy, by the way, when we're done with the show, because I'm on his email list because I'm a client from last year and will continue to be a client. So even just his emails and information that he sends out, every few days or once a week or what have you, the information is so chock full of information that is helpful to me and my business, that I think that it's worth it.
Yeah. So, and guys, like we were saying about the spreadsheet, he has that on the website. You don't have to pay for it. So if you want to just go look at it and kind of get an idea of the kind of information that you should have, that you should be gathering for your taxes, you should definitely do that. And it'll make it a lot easier for you to kind of conceptualize, okay, what is it going to take? But let's get into the questions that we have. So, we were talking before the show a little bit, Mark, and we can't completely answer this quite yet. But we were talking about, the kind of, I don't know, I almost want to call it a debacle with the whole sales tax thing. eBay was collecting sales tax and remitting it. And then in, what was it, September?
It was like September 4th or so.
September 4th or so, whatever. Whenever they started, when you see transactions in PayPal, you'll see that money come in, and we're actually paying PayPal fees on that money, which, whatever, it is being processed. They're doing the service. But we're paying, fees on that, PayPal fees on that, and then it's being basically handed right back to eBay. And so it's
like PayPal is right now a clearinghouse for that tax information. They're accepting the tax from the customer. It's going into our account and immediately being transferred out, which is easier than some alternatives. It was easier when they were just sending it directly to eBay without it coming through us as a clearinghouse. But because of that, it is now showing when you get your 1099 from eBay, or from PayPal, I should say, if you get a 1099, your 1099 will include that sales tax as if it were income. So you need to figure out where to find what that sales tax was that is paid on each transaction and how to expense it, because it is an expense, because you're not liable to pay taxes on that money that came in that is not yours. And so Mark, could you tell us, I guess, what your thoughts are on this right now and what people need to know when they start doing their taxes?
Yeah, so the thing there is, I'll back up a little bit. So anytime you have sales over $20,000 and 200 transactions, those payment processors like PayPal or Amazon, they're required to send you a 1099 as well as send one to the IRS and report that number. But that number isn't necessarily all income, or it's not sales. It's basically everything they processed on your behalf. So that could include like returns, that will include sales tax. So that's not necessarily the number that you should use for the sales that you report on your taxes.
Right. So
like me personally, I keep, my books are perfect. That's one of the things that brings me joy in life, right? Having really accurate books. So I know exactly what my sales are. So when I get my 1099, I don't use that number. I don't trust that number. I trust my number. But the only potential issue is that when you report a number for your sales that's less than what PayPal is reporting on your 1099, it's not an issue, but it could potentially, cause the IRS to say, wait a minute, they reported this much, but you're only reporting this much. So just to avoid that problem, what I do is I'll take their number, I'll list that as the gross sales on my taxes. But then below that, there's a line that says sales, returns, and allowances. And I'll just subtract everything out. I'll basically plug the difference between the 1099 number and my sales number.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So then my net sales will show my number, and then everything after that will match my books. So
okay,
that's the simple workaround that I do.
Yeah. So Pink Warriors Closet says, I started the Academy this week and it's great. I learned a lot and I still have 3 more sections, well worth the money. So that's a little testimonial from somebody in the chat. So I think really, people who might still have concerns, especially people who are trying to do their own taxes, but they still have concerns about the whole sales tax thing. I would think that they should be talking to a CPA, maybe talking to you. I think they should also take advantage of being able to follow you on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
Not Your Dad's CPA.
Just at Not Your Dad's CPA.
There you go. Pretty easy. Because you put up good content there, and you're always available. People reach out to you and stuff like that. I have a couple of questions. I've seen some questions in the chat, and guys, if we don't answer your questions right away, you might want to ask them again. But Christian in the Facebook group had this question. He wanted to know, having 2 separate businesses, I guess this is his first year that he has 2 separate businesses that he's running. Will a loss on one offset profits on the other? So in other words, he has one business where he's operating at a loss, but the other one he's showing profits. Will that offset it?
Yeah, generally. So, I mean, he might have two separate Schedule Cs on his tax return. That's just where you list all your business activity. And those are basically added together, and then they flow through to like page 1. So yeah, it all gets combined, so it offsets each other.
All right, cool. And then Bonnie asked this question, and I think we answered it, but we wanted to let you address it too. She wanted to know, if you were doing her taxes for her reseller business, does that also include handling her household taxes?
Yeah, especially if she is a sole proprietor, which most of us starting out, or even, if we've been doing it a few years, we're sole proprietors or single member LLCs, and that is all included as part of the individual tax return. Like, there's no separate form. So there's, and really sometimes people have asked me if I can do just the business piece, but there's really no clean way to separate that, because it's all like connected on that, on your individual tax return. So yeah, all together.
Yeah, for sure. And then also there was some chat going on in the chat over here about cash versus accrual. And I know you will do people's taxes whichever way they want to do it, but can you explain what the differences are between cash and accrual accounting, and like why somebody might want to do one over the other?
Yeah, so there's 2 levels. At a higher level, well, so cash basis just means you recognize income or sales when you actually receive the cash. And you recognize expenses when you actually spend the cash. Accrual is you recognize the income when you make the sale. So maybe you send an invoice, but you haven't gotten the cash yet, but you're still going to recognize that sale. So it's kind of, accrual is like delayed, basically. So you can be, so at a high level, most businesses are overall use the cash method. So most small businesses are in cash. But when you go down a level, inventory specifically can be different than your overall level. So you can be a cash-based business, but then still use the accrual method for inventory, which has historically been the requirement. And what that means is that you don't deduct your inventory until you sell it. And that's typically the method that I recommend, just because that's historically what's been required, and it matches up your expenses to your income better, so you have more visibility into your profitability. The alternative, and this is only allowed as of last year with some of the tax changes, but the alternative is that you can also use the cash method for inventory, which means that you can deduct it when you purchase it rather than when you sell it.
Which is what we do, because we're kind of lazy. And I mean, we understand
that's the lazy accounting method, to be sure.
It is, because I know it's like what you're saying, that you have a better picture of the profitability and success of your business if you're doing the accrual method. But I know for myself, taking on the task of tracking my inventory to that level is really difficult. So I do use the cash method, which is at the end of the year, my expenses are every dollar I spent on inventory, whether I sold or not.
Correct. And I do it the same way, and I always have done it that way. So whether my CPA was doing it wrong for 12 years or not, I don't know, but that was how he told me how to do it when I first started. I had no idea. Yeah. My first few years, I didn't pay taxes on my eBay income, and that was probably on me, but it was before PayPal used to send a 1099 and whatever. Apparently I was breaking the law. Oh, yeah. But, yeah. I've now learned and have been on the books for 14 plus years. But I've always used the cash accrual method. And just because it like we said, that's the easiest way for people to do accounting. If you're somebody that loves spreadsheets and you like to put in, I paid $4.99 for this item and it sold for $2.49 and this is the date and these are my expenses and this is my profit on that item, then God love you. Yeah. Accrual method is all you. But if you're somebody that likes to or
fly by the seat of your pants,
maybe gathers up all your shoebox of receipts and your PayPal expenses 2 weeks before taxes are due and sits down and tries to add everything up, kind of like me, the cash method may be better. Now, easier, not necessarily better. But like all of us, if you actually invest the time and effort into trying to do your accounting weekly or monthly or quarterly even, rather than right before your taxes are done or due, or right before your extension is over, that's probably the smartest way to handle a business for sure. So I'm hoping that by following through on Mark's Reseller Academy, I will get better at doing that myself. I'm all caught up in my taxes. I never really get behind. I always file my extension. I have to be fair about that. I'm a last minute person with that. But I can tell you that since my taxes were done back last October, I haven't looked at a darn thing. I don't have anything done for 2019. I have my shoebox for 2019 that I will have to go through and double check with all of my my GoDaddy and match things up.
Yeah.
And
so Jen wants to know, looks like she didn't get a 1099. She's not getting a 1099. So she's wanting to know if there's anything that she can or should do about the taxes collected by eBay. I mean, I guess she's going to have to like gather all that information herself.
Yeah, I mean, she'll just report. I mean, basically, instead of having to rely on PayPal, she'll have to rely on her own records or go in and get that data from PayPal. It just depends what kind of system she's been using. But yeah, you're just responsible for reporting your own sales numbers. And you don't report the sales tax that eBay collects and then sends on to the state. You just leave that out and just report your sales.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then Carpe Diem Dancer was asking about what kind of, I guess, spreadsheets or software might be included in the tax course, the Tax Academy. Are you providing anything for people to better get their businesses organized?
Yeah, I mean, I link, my spreadsheets are available outside the course too. I link to them directly in the course. Spreadsheets that help you keep track of your inventory if you're using the accrual method. And one thing I want to hit there is you don't necessarily have to track everything individually. So you can use more of an average costing method, which doesn't take as much time. So it just depends. I mean, there are different ways to do things depending on, what's best for your business. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely cheat sheets and lists in there. And, you get access to a private Facebook group where we have live group coaching and Q&A and stuff like that to sort of supplement any questions that come up. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty awesome. I think being able to reach out to other people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, maybe Mark will not be your point of contact every single time, but you might be able to ask an easy to answer question in a group with people that are all dealing with the same thing, and you can get a couple of different options. Why, you may be a brand new reseller and you may want to know what is the difference? Again, we've asked it a few times and talked about it, a few differences between the accrual method or the cash method, and why is one better than the other, and why, this is my business and which one do you think would be better for me? These are the kind of questions that you want to talk about with someone else that is doing the same type of thing.
So She Sells Resell, which is Deb and Mel, they said this is the most confusing part, inventory, and that's why they enrolled in the academy. They hate spreadsheets, and maybe they'll like them more after the academy. I don't know. But I mean,
I still hate spreadsheets. If I come back on here and start telling people I like spreadsheets, you better see if I've been, abducted by an alien. That's never going to happen. But I do like to have the peace of mind that having my taxes and my figures and all of my numbers in place gives me. So there's that weight of that. There is the sigh of relief that you get once your taxes are just off and sent to the accountant, and you're like, okay, I'm done. And let me tell you, that weight off your shoulders, or weight off my shoulders every year is a big deal. So if I were able to actually handle this and take care of it monthly or weekly or quarterly, the way that a good business person would, I'm sure my life would not feel like I have this big looming thing over my head 2 weeks before tax time.
Yeah. It's all overwhelming. And it's funny. Here's a little tip for you guys out there. So because I was behind in my taxes, I paid everything, and then I started getting the bills for my penalties.
Your interest penalty,
yeah, penalties, and so I called, and what's awesome is that I never would have thought that I could do this before, but I called and I got a lady on the phone, which one of the fastest ways to get somebody on the phone is to call. There's like a local number you can call to set up an appointment with your local office. And I swear it gets you through to somebody much faster. But I called and I was like, is there anything that can be done about my penalties? And she was like, oh, well, I have this tool I can run. I can't make any guarantees, but let me go ahead and try this. I have this one-time tool I can run. She's all, bloop, 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 bloop. And then she took $2,000 off my penalties. And that was just because I asked. Obviously it's something that anybody could ask, but it's not like
if you don't know to ask.
If you don't know to ask anyway, so it made it a lot easier to handle that, to deal with it. And it was one of the things I'd been putting off, is just not knowing how I was going to handle all that. So,
and that phone call was you're like, okay,
I made some good money in that phone call.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Keep your questions coming. So Bridget wants to know, do we have to file quarterly?
Yeah, it depends. Maybe not. It all depends on how much you're making in profit and how much you're having withheld from other sources. So when you're an employee, you're used to seeing federal and state income taxes withheld from your paycheck, and your employer is sending those on to the government throughout the year. So when you become self-employed, even if it's part-time, you might be required to do the same thing, because there's nobody withholding any taxes on your behalf. If you have a full-time job, it's possible that the withholdings are enough to cover the taxes due from your reselling activity, but maybe not. And especially if you're reselling full-time, if that's your only source of income, then you probably are subject to quarterly taxes. So the main rule of thumb is, if you're going to owe over $1,000 at the end of the year, then the government wants you to pay that quarterly, to split it up and pay it every quarter.
Something every quarter, even if it's a guesstimation. You can kind of base it off your taxes from the prior year if you have enough of a history. I know approximately what I should owe every year. So every quarter I should be sending in a quarter of what I owed the previous year. At least it'll show that you're trying. And then it's reconciled at the end of the year. If you've overpaid, then you end up with a refund. And if you have underpaid, then you've already paid, 3/4 of it, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as big of a tax bill. That's theoretically the way it should be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Aaron, I don't know what this question means, but Aaron wants to know if you can explain the FIFO method.
That's the cash method. FIFO is first in, first out.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. So we
talked about that.
Well, FIFO is, if I'm using the accrual method, I can use, you guys were talking about, I can go in there and list everything individually, or I can track it more on an average costing basis, or FIFO is another method you can use. And that's actually what I use personally, for my Amazon, because I only have a few products that I order in large quantities every few months. So, if I order 300 units of, product A for $3 a piece, and then a few months later I order 300 more of the same product for $3.50. What FIFO is if I make a sale, it's okay, of these 600 units that I have in inventory, do I pull one out that's the $3 price or the $3.50 price? So FIFO, it says first in, first out. So I go like to the top or the very back of the barrel or whatever to the very first unit that I got, which is the $3, and that's the cost that I assigned to it. So once I sell through 300 units, then I'll move to the next cost, if that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, it does make sense, sort of.
First in, first out.
If you have multiples of the same type of item that may have different price points for point of purchase,
Exactly.
that would be a good method for you.
Yep.
If you're like the majority of us that are, at least those of us that are in this chat and in our group, a lot of us are selling one-offs or only a small amount of SKUs. That's not a method that doesn't sound like it would work very well for that type of business. Or am I wrong? Or
no, you're right. Like if you're selling unique items, I probably wouldn't use FIFO. Like I don't know, if they're all kind of around the same price level, I think you could get away with it. That it turns into more of like an average costing type thing. But yeah, if it's a lot of different stuff, I might not choose that method.
All right, here is a great question that I think a lot of us would like to know the answer to. Yard Sale Steals 300 says, I travel to another state for vacation. I thrift daily. What can I write off? Travel to the other state, hotel, mileage, driving to thrift stores, food?
Yeah, especially if you're driving outside your, away from your own home, your own city, then you can deduct pretty much all of that. So, I mean, I'll start with meals. So you can, like, if you stop for lunch in the middle of a day when you're thrifting, that meal is only deductible if you're outside of your city and if you're having an overnight stay somewhere. Otherwise, unfortunately, those aren't going to be deductible. But if you're traveling to another state and you happen to have an overnight stay, any meals that you have during that sourcing trip would be deductible. Any mileage you incur, any travel you incur will be deductible if the primary purpose of your trip is for business, for sourcing or whatever.
Is there like a rule over around what makes it primary? Like, do you have to be spending a certain amount of time focusing on your business during that trip?
Yet it typically means that the majority of days are spent for business.
So like when we travel to Phoenix and hang out with Teresa for 3 days at her Airbnb and source 10 stores a day, that's a business trip.
Yep.
Our mileage going to and from Phoenix, our mileage driving all around the city, everything that we purchase, our meals that are on the road while we're out there.
I mean, 75% of our time is sourcing.
Or talking about business.
But if you're going to visit your parents in another state and you go to one thrift store in a week, that's probably, you're really stretching it.
I mean, you could deduct the round trip from your parents' house to the thrift store, but you wouldn't be able to deduct the travel cost from your house, to your mom's house or whatever.
Okay. Perfect. Good answer.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Allison had a question in there. Go back up.
I'm going.
Right there.
Okay.
So Allison purchased a new business in 2019. She's also a reseller. Should I file separately or lump it in with my existing business? Startup cost was approximately $5,000.
Yeah.
I think that's like the offsetting the two businesses question we had earlier, very similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, if it's I don't know, another reselling business that you purchased and it's basically going to...
She purchased a snow cone business
in Alaska.
It does get warm there. Big surprise. So she's a reseller. She purchased a snow cone business.
We're not joking. It's true. It's funny, but still, it's true.
So can she put that all in together in her taxes?
I mean, you could. Yeah, if it's a like a distinct business activity, the IRS prefers to have those like separately stated. So if they're both sole proprietorships, I would put those in two separate Schedule Cs.
Okay.
I mean, it's all combined at the end anyway. But yeah, I would list them separately.
So it's not a separate filing; it's just a separate document that she has to fill out with the Schedule C.
Separate schedule. Yep.
They're two Schedule Cs, and then
right,
they would.
That's what I'm saying.
And then they would kind of fall onto the first couple pages of her 1040.
So file it all together, but they will be separated out within the document. So that makes sense.
Yep, she is literally selling ice to the Eskimos.
Somebody's got to do it.
Exactly. All right. We got a little more time, guys. If you have more tax questions, anything that could specifically help you out. Okay, so
Jen's a little confused.
Let's go back. So cash method versus accrual. If you're using the cash method, you are writing off all the money you spend on inventory, whether it's sold or not. What you're talking about with entering the cost of items that sold, not the total you spent, that's accrual. Simplified accrual. So and I think that's something where, you know, if you do hire a CPA, they can help you further with that. But all right, any other questions, guys? I know it is confusing. Seriously.
Allison's cost of goods for the ice right now is 0.
Good call.
Are you shaving the ice out of in your backyard and then keeping? Yeah, could be. Let's see. We have some more questions here in the chat. These are good questions, guys.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see.
It also shows clearly that a lot of people are intimidated by taxes. A lot of people have questions that need to be answered in depth, and a lot of people have questions that are, you know, they may sound the same, but they're a little bit different. Each person is individual. Each business is a little bit individual. So Deborah asked, how does Mark keep up with all the individual state rules? Good question.
That's a good question. So the thing there, I mean, the benefit of specializing in e-commerce is that for the most part, everybody's business is pretty similar. And there aren't a lot of state laws that get really specific. You know, it's not like, there are tons of tax laws and it's extremely complex, but most of it just doesn't apply to us. You know, like, I don't know anything about, you know, how to depreciate, I don't know, oil reserves on goat farms. You know, there's just some really crazy stuff. And that just doesn't apply to you know, 99% of my clients. And when there is a question that comes up, I will research it and learn a little bit, and then I know it for the next time. But yeah, like, you know, I'm in Utah, but most of my clients, or the highest concentration of my clients, are in California, you know, in Texas, you know, all the really populated areas. So I know a thing or two about what's going on in those states. But yeah.
All right. So Joanne has another great question. What is an acceptable percentage to write off your utilities like electric, phone, and garbage? You know,
I know the answer to that one. I'm going to let him answer, obviously, but I know the answer to that one.
Yes, I mean, that one just, well, so let's see, electric, phone, and garbage. So those will typically be taken as part of the home office deduction. So if you use, there are two different methods you can use. If you use the regular method, you basically look at the percentage of your home office that accounts for your, you know, the proportion. So I don't know how to say that. So if your home office is 10% of your home, of the total square footage, then you can deduct 10% of your utilities, your mortgage interest and rent, your property taxes, shared expenses like that. So that's how you take advantage of those. Things that are sort of out. So go ahead.
Sorry, that was how I knew it to be. You take it, say if your house is 2,000 square feet and you're using 25% of your home that is dedicated at more than 90% to business. I think is that the percentage? It has to be 90%. I don't know. My home office is all business. So, you know, so you take that percentage and then you can take, okay, 25%, say it's 25% of your utilities across the board, 25% of your rent or your mortgage interest or whatever.
But guys, what's awesome about Mark's spreadsheet that he gives you to fill out to do your taxes is he asks all the questions and all the different amounts, and so all of that gets calculated for you. And so, Mark, what about like if you use your garage for inventory? How's that work?
Yeah, it's a good one. So the square footage that you use for your inventory will also become part of the home office deduction.
Okay.
So you lump that in, and it gives you.
I added it to the square footage of the house. Well, technically, it is when you're buying a home, your garage is not always considered part of your square footage.
Right.
But for these purposes, I added it to the square footage of the house and then used it as a percentage.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Okay, and let's see.
Because God knows I can't fit a car in my garage, so it's all inventory. I mean, we have a 2.5 car garage that is, you know, floor to ceiling inventory. The doors don't even open. It's all it is. It's a storage facility that is on property, pretty much.
All right, so Heather asks, can you deduct car expenses, fuel, car insurance, etc., when sourcing locally? Now, it's my understanding that you have to do one or the other. If you're deducting mileage, that basically covers everything else, right?
Exactly.
And it doesn't matter if it's local or anywhere. It's just if you're going somewhere for business, you get to count that mileage.
Yep.
Yeah. But once you count that mileage, guys, you can't write off fuel. You can't write off any car maintenance or anything like that, because you're already, it's basically, that would be like double dipping if you're doing that. So,
but to be fair, the mileage per allowance is really high.
Yeah, what is it now?
Is it 55 cents a mile or something?
It's 58 cents for 2019. It's just half a cent less for 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty high. I will tell you, when I used to drive for business in my other life, I didn't get paid. I didn't get reimbursed that well for mileage. When I used to, like, I had an expense account and I had to reimburse get my mileages. I was an accountant executive and I drove all around, and I don't think I got that much per mile then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Southern Blue Skies wants to know, Mark, if you handle the federal and state taxes or only federal?
I do both.
Yeah.
So I mean, most tax programs, and your CPAs probably won't tell you this, but you know, you're primarily preparing the federal return, and then the state returns pretty much auto-populate from what you enter on the federal return. That's how they're designed. And then it's just a matter of kind of reviewing the state return and making sure there's nothing else that you need to add or adjust. But yeah, so I do both.
Okay. So Maribrew Crafts and Finds has a good question for anybody who's thinking of wanting to like switch over from one method to another. What is the effect on the net profit at the end of the year if I change from accrual to cash method, or the other way around?
Yeah, so there is an adjustment you have to make. So if I'm sitting on $10,000 worth of inventory that I haven't deducted yet, like, you know, crossing over, let's say I end 2019 with $10,000 worth of inventory I haven't deducted yet. In 2020, I decide I want to change to the cash method. So what I do is I have to go back and look at everything I already had on hand and then basically just deduct it. So anything I purchase in 2020 will be deduction, and I'll also deduct what I came into the year with. So it's basically a deduction of an extra 10,000.
Oh, okay.
It's like a catch-up adjustment.
Gotcha. And Brandy wants to know if there are certain deductions that get flagged. Federal was fine, but her state didn't like her Schedule C, and she had to send copies of everything, even though the CPA did those taxes.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I mean, I don't know. I have no explanation for certain things that get flagged or not. Sometimes it's random. Like I did an amended return for my brother apparently a couple years ago for Utah, and he lives in Arizona now. But Utah's like on his case about this $200, and I'm just like, it's just an amended return, like for his, like, I don't know, his tuition credit or something. But it seems really straightforward to me, but like they won't let it go. So we're in the middle of that right now, and it's just, I have no explanation for why they follow up on some of that stuff. But a lot of the times it's nothing to worry about. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you know, sending them the documents they want. And
well, and I think that that's all the more reason why if you're not just like working a 9-to-5 job where you get your W-2s and you can go online and use one of the free tools to do your own taxes. It's like if you're running your own business, you really can't go wrong hiring a skilled CPA like Mark, because he's super affordable, and then you don't have to worry like, what am I missing? What am I doing wrong?
And if you do get flagged, if you do get audited, if you do have questions, this is why it's great to have a CPA that you can contact and say, okay, I just got this letter from the IRS. What do I do now? And that's a big panic to get a letter from the IRS, because I've gotten them before. I've messed up. The one and only time I tried to do my own damn taxes about 8 years ago, I line item deducted something twice incorrectly, and I got hit with this penalty 2.5 years later for like $2,500. I didn't even know where it came from because they had gone in and audited something. And of course, I just paid it, but I was like, what do I do? I was panicked. I'm like, what do you mean I owe $2,000? Where'd this come from? Had I had somebody like Mark to call and be like, why do I owe $2,000? Where did this come from? There's something about having somebody who is very calm and very knowledgeable that can help walk you through these questions that takes a lot of that fear and trepidation out of dealing with the IRS. Everybody's afraid, oh, the IRS, it's a pretty scary acronym, right? You're afraid that they're going to like all of a sudden shut down your business, or you're going to owe tens of thousands of dollars, or they're going to attach, you know, a lien to your home or or anything. I mean, there's a lot of real based fear that has to do with taxes. And I think having somebody help you takes that fear away, for me anyway.
Yeah. So Mark, do you have any, we're coming close to the end of our show here. Do you have any advice for somebody who is running their own business as a reseller? Like what's one thing they could do like this week to put themselves in a better position for the future as far as taxes and finances go? What's like one thing that you would throw out there?
I would commit to, starting now, to moving forward, make sure you do things correctly. And I would start with having a separate bank account if you don't already.
Yeah, sorry. The dogs are, my assistant just got here, so the dogs are going nuts.
Oh, that's funny.
As soon as they get their treats, they'll shut up. They have her very well trained.
You know, that's one of my goals for this year, because I don't have a separate, I have my PayPal account, and then I just have my regular checking account. And it's like before, when I was just selling on eBay and everything was coming through PayPal, I just didn't really feel like there was any reason for me to have a separate checking account. But now it's like I'm selling on Etsy, and I am doing stuff with Amazon, and eBay's changing over to manage payments. And so now it's like I'm realizing like, actually, it's going to be a lot harder to do my taxes this year because I have a lot more I have to draw from, and it would be a lot easier if everything was going into one account.
That's on my list this year too, is to finally separate. I never have. I've been exactly like Katie. I've just always used my PayPal. 90% that tracked my income and my expenses using just PayPal and in and out of that account. That other 10% now, and then now getting into Etsy a little bit more, and Amazon affiliates and all that type of stuff. Now I know I need to get a separate dedicated account that will make my life easier, separating everything.
Do you cover that in the Tax Academy?
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So if you've been here with us, or maybe you just joined us, Mark Tew from EXTRADAY CPA has been answering our tax questions, and I asked him yesterday, he still has room to take on new clients if you are just looking for a CPA, if you are behind in your taxes, if you're current in your taxes, but you're ready to hire a CPA for the first time, or maybe you want to switch CPAs. He does have some openings to take on new clients. And then on top of that, he is offering his Reseller Tax Academy, which is normally $349. Today is the last day of his special that's going on. You can go to the link down below that will take you directly to the site, to the Reseller Tax Academy. And right now it's $249 as a special, which ends today. However, just for our viewers, he's actually extending that one more day. So if you go today, you don't have to enter anything. You just purchase the course, and it's going to be $100 off. But if you forget about it, or maybe you don't see this video until tomorrow, which is going to be Thursday the 23rd, you can use EXTRADAY. Sorry, you can't really see that there, but EXTRADAY, and I have it down in the description as well of this video. EXTRADAY is the code that you can use tomorrow, Thursday the 23rd, and you will still be able to get that $100 off for this tax course. And this is really going to help you, as Mark was saying earlier, it's going to help you to be able to set yourself up to where you will be able to do the best you can possibly do for your business as far as taxes and finances in the future. Because once you're doing your taxes for the year before, any damage that you've done is already done. You can't reverse it. but you can set yourself up to be successful for the next year.
Well, you can actually, you can do what he's talked about. You can do amended tax returns.
Sure.
If you've really screwed up, you can do an amended tax return. But
I'm talking about the behavior within your business.
Oh, your behavior,
that might cost you more money.
That's true. That's in the past. Let's start fresh. It's January. It's a new year, right? New year, new decade, all that stuff. So Nate is asking, how much is it to become a client? If you go to Mark's website, which is linked down below, it's pretty easy. It's just, even if you just Google Not Your Dad's CPA or Google Mark Tew, T-E-W, you're going to find his information. It's everywhere.
The link below goes to the tax course, but it's on his website. So from there, you can go and look at anything else on the site.
And yes, eBay Reseller Thrift King, yes, this does take care of your taxes, including your W-2 full-time job taxes, your business taxes, and your your side business taxes and your W-2 tax information. One tax return. So depending on how you file, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be a single tax return Schedule C person.
But also so real quick, the Reseller Tax Academy is a course for you to learn more about how to prepare yourself for taxes and set up your business to be better off financially. It does not include having your taxes filed by Mark.
Correct.
So that would be a separate thing. If you use the link below to check out the Tax Academy. If you're also, instead of doing the Tax Academy, you're also interested in hiring him as your CPA to do your taxes.
Also,
that information is on the website,
whichever.
or instead of. That's also available on the website.
He's very, very transparent with his prices. And I think that is a pretty good thing, because there are not a lot of companies that do that. I have actually, as a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever found an accountant or CPA that actually puts their prices on a website before you actually hire them. Almost everybody has send me some information and we'll email back and forth a few times, and then I'll let you know maybe how much it's going to be, or I can give you an estimate. And then you don't really know. So I think having a very clear idea of what it's going to cost you is going to put your mind at ease as well. Because once I found out what his prices were last year, I was like, oh, what the heck? Why haven't I hired this guy? So, I mean, really, he's worth every penny.
Well, what I think is funny is that the guy that you were using before, who you've been using for years and years and years, was ridiculously cheap, like even cheaper than Mark. And I think that was more like because you've been using him for like 15 years.
He never
like
increased his price. Yeah, I'm sure he was about the same price if you hired him today.
And so then you decided, you were like, I'm just going to use Mark anyway. And then with Mark, you ended up saving thousands of dollars over what her last CPA was doing for her. So I'm telling you, going to the right person who understands the business and knows how to help you with your taxes, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. I will say I paid Mark twice what I used to pay my other CPA, and it was worth every penny.
To be fair, though, the old CPA was dirt cheap. Like, there's no.
He was dirt cheap. I don't think you'll find anybody that cheap ever.
Because Mark is very, very affordable. All right, guys. Thank you so much, and Mark, thank you for coming in and helping us. I
know you're probably talked out at this point from all the eBay reseller talk show circuit, but we appreciate you being here.
So please, thank you, Mark. And please, guys, go check out the course below, and also just check out Mark's website, Not Your Dad's CPA. Follow him on Instagram at Not Your Dad's CPA. And also, you can sign up for his email newsletter. I think he sends out regular emails, but all great ways to.
There are some questions in the chat. I want to say there are some questions in the chat that were very specific to individuals and their tax situation. I would say if those are specific questions you may have for Mark, definitely reach out through his website. I hope you're not getting inundated with questions. I apologize, but specific questions on how to handle stuff like that. This is definitely more of an overall about how to handle yourself as a reseller of tax questions that we're trying to cover.
Anyway. All right, Mark, thank you so much. And thanks, guys. We will see you on Sunday and in the Boss Facebook group. Bye.
Bye-bye.